Alright, so thought I'd just crack on with doing this. I've 6 update now, I think. I've got the engine out now, so I'm just going to put it all together, gaskets and all. And I don't think I'm not planning to take it out again in the near future. As I said, I'm trying to get the car running and everything before I start tightening up the engine bay, because otherwise you get it painted and then you've got to drill a hole in it and it just pisses you off. So yeah, I'll make it look something like presentable. At least I can open the bonnet and not be like upset about the way it looks. So yeah, I'll take you around the engine. I'll show you everything I've got and done to it, and then I'll show you the car and everything I've got and done to it as well. So firstly, you get a little bit of a better look at that coolant neck that I did. I also, it's called an idle air assist valve that's on here, and it basically reads the temperature of the coolant, and it allows air to bypass the throttle body to raise the idle speed at a sort of like a low coolant temperature to try and warm it up faster. So I don't need that. I blanked it, and then I put the Volkswagen gauge, the coolant gauge sender in it, so that like interfaces directly to the Volkswagen cluster. So I just need to put a spade connector and a wire along with the harness out, and then that'll run the gauge. That's quite a good solution. I was quite happy with that. I didn't want to have to tap any other holes, but this worked quite well doing that. And apparently that idle air assist is more or less like useless. What else have we got? I've just slapped a lick of paint onto the gearbox mount, and I've also put this extra cross brace in it. I just thought it might be a good idea to do that, get it, you know, nice and loads of strength in that direction, and just in case, for the sake of a few grams of steel. I have got clutch slave mounted, and I got a new boot for the clutch release fork, and there's a new release bearing in there as well. I said before, I used the existing XED clutch because it didn't look very old. That's the coolant bottom hose neck, that swivel neck that I got from China, that, you know, the copy of the K-tuned one, and as I said, this was like I think 30 quid, something like that. A really good quality, to be honest. For 30 quid you really can't complain about it. Hopefully it ain't gonna leak. Yeah, I mean, I can't really say much more than that. I've bonded that on because they don't come with there's not a gasket, so it's a bit weird actually. There's like the coolant passage runs straight through an oil passage, so there's an O-ring on the coolant passage. It's like sort of in the middle area, and then the rest of it is the oil passageway, and you seal that with like an RTV. Finally got, I can hardly see it. I finally found this hose here. Like, no one was breaking them, and no one wanted to like sell me it like just off an engine. Nobody wanted to break it. And then finally I found a guy who just sold me. It was like, yeah, tenner, happy days. So yeah, I've got that. That's easy. And I've just been kind of going along and buttoning stuff up. So like, I've put some sealant behind the throttle. I need to get a purge valve delete. Button that up. That's about it really. Put the coil packs in. Yeah, it's coming along. Need to torque that bolt back up for the bottom pulley and get a new oil filter, but I think I'm about there with this engine now. A couple more bolts to get underneath, and I'm missing the inspection cover, so I'll probably just knock something up for that as well. Yeah. Okay, so I thought I'd just give you a quick show of the engine bay here. So there's an engine mount here originally. I've cut that off and smoothed it. There's an engine mount here as well with a bolt hole, so you can go through the bottom control arm. I just welded that shut. Got that shackle mount there for the diff mount. Obviously you can see these are power steering lines I put on, and then coming from down here is the 2 fuel lines. Obviously that's the return, and then I think that one is the feed to the rail. What else have we got? Yeah, I've got the wiring coming through. I've got to give that a good tidy up. Do that as and when. This is the clutch line that I got done from Hell Performance, and they put me a Honda on one side and a Volkswagen on the other. Comes out really nice. I just used an existing hole in the firewall, so that's quite good. I did the same, like I had to put another hole here for the master cylinder feed to the slate to the master, but that's pretty simple. I need to get a grommet for that, obviously it's going to go straight through. That's about it really. I think you've seen everything else before. I'll take you and show you inside now. You can kind of see up here, this is the relay board and fuse box, and sort of the snake skin is what come on that harness from racing circuits in Leeds. I bought a conversion harness for a K20. It's like sort of his generic one to put into like any car conversion. It's really good actually, it's a really nice quality. Yeah, what he does is he puts you so you got an OBD, you get the connector C and the C101, which is like the connector that goes between the ECU and the body side of the Honda up to here, and then it's got a bunch of outputs as well, so you get the usual vehicle speed. Obviously that won't work with the Golf because it's a mechanical driven speedo. I've got another solution for that, and it's got warning lights, so you get the mil, the oil pressure and the coolant, and I'm able to get them onto these. So what they do is the ECU grounds the circuit when it's got a fault, and I've wired them up to these in the cluster, so if the battery alternator has a fault, then the battery light on the Mark II dash will show. Same for the oil pressure. I've just pinned it into the correct pin on the back of the fuse box. The coolant sensor is a little bit different, but I just need to put a relay in to make it do the opposite, because the coolant sensor is actually expecting it to go live. And what else have we done down here? Just try to keep it as tidy as possible. Anyone who's worked on a Mark II knows that this area is it's a real dog, yeah. The ECU, I've stashed it in there. You can't really see it because, so this panel runs, I guess there's like the shelf inside here. It runs like that. And I've basically mounted the ECU in there, and it's really good. It's proper stealthy. I'm really happy with how I've done it. And I just need to tuck these wires up here, and there's a panel that covers it. I've had to trim the panel a little bit because of the master clutch master anyway, but it's turned out nicely, so it'll cover all this. Yeah, and then I guess one last thing to show you is the gear shifter. I've given it a bit of a trim up, and yeah, I've got full motion. I can get all the gears without clashing then, so I've just got to get a gaiter sorted, but the actual aperture is fine now. And then I don't know if I mentioned it, but because I've got this USB, because I've got the Honda, whatever it is, Honda V4, K Pro V4 in there, fully programmable. So I've already loaded the base map on, and I've checked that everything's doing what it should. Right, so I'm having fun and games getting a fit-in to fit this. I designed one in Fusion, and I've made it and got it done in 3D printed, obviously just to mock up. It works really nicely, but I've been getting quotes for like over £80 to have this cut in aluminium, and I'm not going to work at the moment, so I can't get one of the lads to do it there. Nothing. So yeah, what I've found a different solution. I know, yeah, anyone knows you can get these from Hybrid Racing, but they're about 80 quid, and I was trying to do it a bit cheaper because I thought I was a bit stingy. So yeah, maybe I can't, maybe I can. I'm going to give it a go anyway. So what I've done anyway is I got a cut of the original Honda. Got the original Honda one here. And the plan is I'm just going to lop that off, and I've got a weld-on AN fitting. I'm going to try and put that on there, obviously like in the right place. So that's the plan. I'm going to put on time lapse, and I'll show you how we do it. Right, so I think time lapse just shits pants. So what I've done is I've made a fixture for it to sit on that aluminium old engine mount there. That way I get a nice bit of heat soak when I TIG it. And then I've just cut that end off it, and you can see it's got a countersunk hole, and then that'll just sit in there nicely. And I'll just TIG it around there. I'll try and put that on the time lapse. Alright, so hopefully you've just seen on that time lapse. It was quite challenging weld actually. It's quite intricate. I blew the fucking tungsten to pieces when I first turned it on, because I've been welding on like 140 amps before, and this doesn't need anywhere near that. So what you'll see is I ended up, as I went round, I took the bolt out, then I welded here, and then put the bolt back in, and then worked my way around, and then did the same with this bolt. Because I just want it on that aluminium to soak the heat. Try and stop it warping, because obviously you don't want that warping or lose all the seal. But it's come out quite nicely actually. You can see where the tongue went in at the start there on that, where it's all yellow, but it's come out quite nicely. So I'll let that cool and I'll fit it, and we'll see how we get on. Right, so just got that on there, and I think everyone will agree that looks a dog's bollocks. I'm pretty happy with how that's turned out. I mean, the only risk I've got is the clearance to the bonnet, but I think on my car the engine's low enough that it won't be a problem. Just got one of them Torx fittings on, and I've got the braided line already ready to go to that. So I'll go and try it on the car now, and I'll show you the result. So there it is, all installed now. I'm pretty happy with that. I think that looks good. Plenty of clearance to the bonnet. It is the highest point on the engine, but there's still a fair bit of clearance. I mean, the bonnet's not exactly it's not exactly a Mercedes-Benz bonnet, is it? You know what I mean? So yeah, I just wanted to kind of say to anyone that kind of thinks that doing a job like this on a car's easy, it's not. Like, it's easy to get the engine in. Yeah, what did that take? Fucking 2 weeks. It's not hard, yeah, to put the engine in the car. But faffing around getting all this sort of thing sorted, like these lines and all the electrical stuff and the gear linkage and whatnot, that's what takes the time. Like, genuinely, this engine's been in this engine bay probably about 8 weeks now, and the rest of the time is taken getting the clutch going, the electrics and the vacuum lines and all that sort of thing. So yeah, I think it's a bit of a misconception when you see these YouTube videos where the guys do it on a time lapse in a weekend. At least if you want something that looks half decent and is nice and functional. So yeah, just wanted to make that point. Alright, so I've got the fuel filter housing here, and I've just locked the accumulator that sits here. I've just taken that off, given it a bit of a clean up. It's not looking in too bad condition. And I've got the screw in adapter fit into dash 6. I think this one's an M12 in there, M12 to dash 6, a copper washer underneath it obviously. I'm going to put a 90 on that into the fuel filter, and annoyingly this is like an M14. I didn't realise. I thought it was an all M12. Yeah, I thought it was all M12. So I need to order another one of these, and then I'll just put another 90. So it'll just go 90 to 90. There'll be a really small bit of hose in between. That's an M12 as well to 90, and then that's going to go to the front of the car, which I'll show you in a minute. This is the return from the rail, and then this is the that's the overflow up back to the tank. And then this one here, there's not much I can do with that, but I will replace the line. That is the feed to the swirl pot from the tank. Okay, so I just fitted the fuel lines, and I've got the carrier mounted back in with some nylocks this time, because those bolts were nuts were a bit shagged on there. So yeah, that's the feed from the pump to the rail, and I've got the return there. So I've just cable tied it onto these like awful little plastic things, because these big dash 6 lines won't fit in there. I'm gonna get my mate Adam to 3D print me some. I'm gonna design them tonight, and I'll get him to 3D print me a bunch of them, just so I can clip the dash 6 line onto it. Yeah, they run down there, and for those of you that don't know, they go into the elongate there, and I was a bit worried they wouldn't fit, but they seem to have worked really nicely actually, so I'm quite happy that that's turned out that way. I'll go up and show you it in the bay now. So there's where it comes out of the elongate. It's like the same route as the factory lines, and then up the side there I got the return on the pressure reg, and then into the fuel line there, and I'd already made this line up. But yeah, I'm really happy with how they look. I think it looks really smart, that black braided line, really stealthy. Let me know what you think about that. So I just thought I'd highlight the first major fuck up that I found that I've done is that right there, that's the drain plug for the gearbox. So that's a bit fucking shit. There was a reason I put the engine a bit further to the left. So yeah, if you're gonna try and do this, maybe before you put the engine in, you might want to change that to a external fixing rather than I think it's like a 1/2 inch drive job. I've got no hope of getting that out now while the engine's in there. Doesn't really matter, I don't think there's much fluid left in the transmission, but it's just something to be aware of. It's a bit annoying that I didn't notice that sooner. Just filled the car up with some oil. I got this 530. It's fully synthetic, like it was pretty cheap. It was 25 quid. I'm fairly sure I'll drop the oil out of it again very, very soon, so I don't want to be putting expensive stuff in. At the end of the day, you know, it's this 92,000 mile engine in a brand new one. At some point it'll get something done to the inside of it, so that's a decent quality oil. It's fully synthetic, it'll do the trick. I just thought I'd mention actually, got a nice surprise when I took the sump plug. I didn't know that engine wasn't full of oil. It soaked me with oil, but on the plus side, the magnetic sump plug's got nothing on it. So just sort of further confirms my suspicions it's quite a well treated engine and a low mileage one. So yeah, just wanted to mention that as well. So just got the exhaust bolted up and the heat shield, and I've sealed all. You can just sort of see it, the gearbox mount, the gearbox shifter mount. I've just sealed all that in with some silicone sealant. We'll see how we get on with that. But yeah, exhaust on. Quite happy with the way it's all fitting up actually. Obviously at the back here it's just how it was normally. You can see how close that is. Well, that's a 2 1/4 inch back pipe. Going to the 2.5 or the 3 inch one, obviously it's what you need to do for the power, but there's not a lot of room to go over that beam there, so a bit tight. But yeah, quite happy with how that looks. I think that'll do. So it's another day. I was hoping that I was going to get the engine running today. I'm having a load of issues with that fuel system. I don't know if I mentioned in the previous video, I got a regulator and an AEM fuel rail, which clearly isn't an AEM fuel rail, it's proper knockoff shit, but it's just leaking like a fucking colander. I mean, it comes with a bunch of fittings for it, and they're absolute shit. I don't know what thread they are. They just so the cone on the dash 6 fitting, depending on where you are around the cone, it's a different angle. So I've fucked that. I've got some from Torx and I've improved it, but the actual thread now, like that's cut into the rail, is fucked. And I've got a shit fuel regulator, exactly the same job. They're just stripping out. So I'm just stopping with that now, and I'm gonna get a Torx K20 fuel rail and a Cytec billet fuel pressure regulator, because you don't want to be faffing around with fuel systems. Like if it sprays petrol over that manifold when it's hot, it's just not worth the risk, is it? And I'm not dealing with fuel leaks anymore, so unfortunately I'm not going to be able to show you much more. I wanted to show you all it running this weekend. It's all ready to go, like cranks. I've got all the ECU signals. Well, once I got fuel to it, I've got no reason to suspect it won't actually run, but yeah, I'm a bit annoying about that. So what I thought I'd do is I'll show you around. I've put the face on the car now, it's all plugged back in. I'll show you around and then I'll end the video. So I finally managed to get the right alternator belt for this. So it's actually a 1345. It's an Integra Type R without air conditioning alternator belt. Now GSF and Co wanted about 30 quid for that, but I got one on eBay, Gates one, a proper good, like a good quality one, for 13 quid. It was pretty good. You can kind of see how it's all plumbing up quite nicely. New alternator in there now. What else have we got? I've just bled the clutch slave. It's all right. It's pretty stiff. I might have to rethink the master cylinder on that. I'll have to see. I made that this bracket up here just to hold the harness, the vac line, and the battery cable. And yeah, not really much more to say. Just waiting to be able to put the fuel system together now. So yeah, like I said, sorry, I wanted to show you the car running, but it ain't gonna happen today, this weekend. So hope you like the video, and hopefully I'll get it running next time. Cheers for watching.